Are you thinking about starting or nourishing a career in menstrual cycle health? Then consider joining our 9-month online holistic hormone and cycle coaching certification training. In this training, you get science-backed and evidence-based education, as well as teachings about the somatic aspects of having a menstrual cycle, functional nutrition, hormone testing, and much, much more. We will have incredible live group sessions, and you will get guidance from me. There will also be amazing guest teaching lectures from experts in the field, and at the end you will receive an official certificate of completion that is globally recognized. As a listener of the Planting Seeds podcast, you receive an additional €100 off when you use the code PODCAST when you sign up. Click on the link in the show notes to learn more. Hey friends! So who would have thought one could have an entire conversation about salt? I definitely did not think that until I met Samantha Skyring. Samantha Skyring is an entrepreneur at heart, and she was working 2 jobs at age 13, and at 19, her dad literally threw her in the deep, and she ended up having an aircraft interior refurbishing business with 30 staff. She then went on to start Kayak Africa on Lake Malawi, for which she designed and made all the expedition tents and equipment for the island hopping excursions. Her next passion was an NGO she started called 20,000 Drums, Transformation Through Celebration, where she facilitated drumming workshops with children in disadvantaged communities across South Africa, reaching 30,000 children over 7 years. She absolutely loves to travel, and it was through her 5-month excursion in Namibia where she walked 120 kilometers through the Namibian desert and had close encounters with the Oryx gazelle that became the inspiration for the Oryx Desert Salt brand. Samantha started Oryx Desert Salt 12 years ago as a new single mom of her 3-year-old son, Kieran. Samantha started packing grinders on her dining room table, and on Oryx's 10th birthday, she received a nationalizing for Whole Foods USA, which is her dream retail outlet. She is deeply passionate about sharing and making this healthy, essential desert salt available globally, making a difference to people's health and the environment with the reusable, long-lasting grinders they sell. Oryx Desert Salt launched nationally in the USA 2 years ago and has supplied 23 countries to date. Like I said, Samantha is an entrepreneur at heart. I really absolutely love talking to her and listen to all of her wisdom that she's gathered over the years. And we speak about her story, how she decided to start her desert salt brand. And we really dove deep in what we need to know about the various types of salts out there and how they differ, why desert salt is different from all the quote-unquote mainstream kinds of salts that we know, like sea salt, Himalayan salt, etc. And she just kept sharing her wisdom on how desert salt, for example, is healthier for people with a menstrual cycle and so on. And just go ahead and have a listen to this inspiring conversation with this equally inspiring woman and let me know what you think.
Hello, friends. My name is Iris Josephina. I'm your host, and you are listening to the Planting Seeds podcast. On the Planting Seeds podcast, we explore how we can cultivate a more gentle relationship with our cyclical bodies, the earth, each other, and the world around us through using our senses, science, the subtle, and the secret. On Planting Seeds, we talk about all those topics you've always wanted to talk about. We are shamelessly opening up the conversations that we all so desperately need to settle in our precious bodies and relate to each other in a more open, truthful, and empowered way. I'm so glad you're here today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Planting Seeds podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about a topic that I think I've never spoken about on a podcast, and I've never heard anybody speak about it on a podcast. And we're going to be talking about desert salt. And I'm here with Samantha. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation to share. Looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, so I'm sure that when I said desert salt, nobody knows what I'm talking about. So I'd love to start with what is your story and how did you discover about desert salt? Could you share a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I actually have thanks to a friend, colleague of mine, who was looking for a food product that had a spiritual quality to it. And he ended up meeting the salt pan owner. And salt is in the Bible 47 times. It's in every religion. However, he didn't want to create a product for South Africa. And this is where the beautiful source in the remote Kalahari Desert of Southern Africa. And so then I had an opportunity. I had my own NGO, but there was a financial crash and I was pregnant with my son. And so I was looking for something else to do. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll create a product and I'll gift it to South Africans, because I really believe that a product that comes from a country that, it should be offered there first before it goes international. So yeah, a desert salt, something, in fact, we're spearheading an entire new category of salt. So obviously salt predominantly comes from the ocean. There's sea salt, there's rock salt. Rock salt is an ancient solidified underground salt lake where they have to pump water down and they have to extract it. Then we've got Himalayan salt, which is an ancient solidified sea. It's also seen as rock salt or categorized as rock salt because it's an ancient solidified and they've got to chop that. In fact, they dynamite Himalayan salt in order to extract it. So we have a very unique and a phenomenal piece of miracle, really, in the deserts. There's a whole region of Southern Africa that is very salt dense. I kind of attributed a little bit. There's another region of South Africa where we have gold veins, and platinum veins. And here in this beautiful Kalahari Desert, where the closest town is 250 kilometers away.
Oh, wow.
Which for some overseas people is 175 miles. And there lies this beautiful 50 square kilometer salt pan. And they discovered underground a 55 million ton salt lake. The salt lake is renewed and sustained by underground subterranean streams that flow through ancient rock strata, tested at 250 to 280 million years old. And when we draw up this 120% saturated, which is also unheard of, sea salt is between 13 to 20% saturation. So we draw up this 120% saturated salt water or brine. And when we do, it has not been touched by human hands. It is a phenomenon. And because it's saturated in the Kalahari in summer in 47, 50 degrees Celsius, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, it crystallizes in 4 weeks only.
Oh, wow.
So it actually crystallizes in a lunar cycle underneath the stars with the desert wind, with its ancient, the minerals and the trace elements come from these ancient rock strata with this underground water source. And so for me, it's very elemental. And it's very activated by the elements. And in fact, I was up on the salt pan a couple of months ago. I went to go film a little documentary and we were there only 2 days and we were gifted with a Kalahari storm, a lightning storm. And it just really was just so obvious how the elements played a part in the creation of this beautiful salt. And so from a homeopathic dose, actually, because I've grown up on homeopathy, is imbibed and infused and energized, and it has the frequency of this beautiful remote space, which is pretty much uninhabitable, and the elements of the desert. And that is Oryx. And the only process that we do with the course is we put it through a sieve and then we bottle it and into our brand called Oryx Desert Salt.
Wow, I had goosebumps when you were sharing about how secluded this area is and that the salt only actually interacts with the elements it is meant to do. I feel when we have a food, I don't know whether I can call it a food source, but when we take something from the earth to eat, my wish is always that it can be as untouched as possible by human hands. And I love that you have come across this beautiful, unique desert salt. And that also raises the question in me, what do we need to know about the various types of salts? You mentioned sea salt, you mentioned Himalaya salt, you mentioned some ranges that are lower in Himalaya salt than are in desert salt. What do we need to know about the various types of salt out there and why?
So Morton's actually in America did a terrible thing in about 1910. It was obviously the start to the convenience food era, and so they created table salt, and their slogan is "See how it pours." And so they added a whole load of anti-caking and free-flow chemicals to it in order to stop salt from absorbing moisture. But in fact, that is salt's gift to us and essential. So salt is third most important to our bodies after oxygen and water, quite like radical. And so taking in and choosing and eating an unrefined, unprocessed, untouched salt is absolutely essential for our health, our vitality, in order for our whole body functioning to thrive and be optimal. So table salt was brought in as a convenience. It's industrial salt. It's highly processed. It's sometimes heated to 1200 degrees Celsius. It's sometimes bleached in order to be that perfect white. And actually the crystals even look different if you have a look at it underneath the microscope. So table salt, please never put table salt in your food, in your pasta water, in your water with anything that you boil. It can go in the bottom of underneath your sink, and you can use it for your red wine stains. Then sea salt. So actually Celtic sea salt, Jacques Delorange, understood in the early 70s how important sea salt was because of the minerals and the trace elements that it had, because table salt is demineralized. And so he really put sea salt on the map. So huge gratitude for the work that he did and the awareness that he created. But unfortunately, not even unfortunately, it's devastating what we've done to our oceans and just how polluted they are. And in fact, they're not only polluted, they are contaminated. I met a marine biologist in June in the USA, and he had done some testing on some oysters this year, and they found in the oysters opioids and contraceptives.
Oh my God.
Now, oysters are cleaners and filters of ocean water. That's what they do. But the truth is, like the amount of, if you think just about America, there's 330 million Americans. How many of those people are on opioids, contraceptives, antibiotics, prescription drugs, Prozac, you name it? Most of that we pass out. It ends up in the rivers and it ends up in the oceans. So what is in the oceans? When you draw up salt water into a pan to create sea salt, whatever's in there is in there. And in fact, there are many tests now, but there is one university study, and they tested 39 sea salts from 20 countries around the world. And 90 to 95% of them contained microbead plastics because of the plastic pollution in the ocean, where it degrades into its smallest particle of a microbead. And so predominantly, if you're eating sea salt, you are probably eating plastic too. And then just on the plastic point, the Oryx Desert salt grinder, we've chosen a grinder head that has a ceramic mechanism, which is 20, 30 times and more refillable. And what it doesn't do is it doesn't grind plastic into your food. So pretty much all other grinders, I haven't found another brand yet that is using the ceramic head. We've been spearheading that for about 7 years. They are plastic or polycarb, which is soft, and salt is very hard and abrasive. So when you're grinding your salt over your food, you're actually grinding the teeth of the grinder away into your food and eating it. And then you throw it away and you voluntarily buy another one and you keep grinding salt and plastic into your food. And last year we saved over 500,000 bottles and heads from landfill because we're teaching and educating our consumers to keep refilling. So that's just on the plastic side. And then Himalayan salt, again, huge gratitude. I think Himalayan salt had a very important place in a way, in evolution to some degree. So Dr. Zach Bush, I'm sure many of you might have come across him, a beautiful human being who was a guiding light to me in COVID. And he mentioned something about table salt and consciousness. So salt is required for brain functioning. It's a conductor. So your neural pathways and your need a proper salt medium in order to fire. You need it for digestion as well. So if you're eating table salt, you get brain fog. You can't function properly because your body doesn't have the right salt. And because salt is hygroscopic and naturally hygroscopic, it allows the body to stay hydrated. It allows the intercellular fluid to stay hydrated. It allows the cells to be hydrated because the salt is helping the body to hold that moisture and the water and the hydration. So then comes Himalayan salt and switches millions of people off table salt and many off sea salt onto Himalayan, I think predominantly because it's pretty. Us ladies like pink. Oh, look at that. That's pretty. Let's have that. Oh, wow. Apparently it's mineral rich. Great. So, yay. There was an awakening of salts from around the world. So, they actually opened up the category of gourmet salt. Oh, wow. There's salt from the Himalayas and there's Persian blue and there are all these beautiful different salts from various places. There's one chef that I work with. He has 230 salts currently in his collection. So salt is almost in every single country. It's on every continent because it is such an important part of our existence and our health, and we need it every day. So Himalayan, thank you. However, it is not a renewable resource. And because of the worldwide global demand, it's being dynamited in order to keep up with demand, which means on a homeopathic sort of frequency level, it has this blast of dynamite and energy. And it also potentially has cyanide, theanine, and a couple of other chemicals that come from dynamite in it. And the communities that are doing the dreadful job of being inside this huge mountain get paid $4 per day or $4 per ton. So there's some slave labor as well that's involved. So thank you, Himalayan. You've had your moment. But I believe that this beautiful salt from the Kalahari Desert and my brand, Oryx Desert Salt, that I'm spearheading globally, has come in with an even higher frequency. And I've actually had it tested. I went to a very top kinesiologist in South Africa and we tested the frequency of various salts. And Oryx salt came up way beyond any of the other ones. So energetically, it is really feeding your vitality.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And I think many people also don't realize how important salt is for our bodies. I work with people around their health and their menstrual cycles, and so many people are not eating proper salt. And it shows in their mineral statuses, it shows in how their bodies respond, it shows in how hydrated they are. A lot of people think that just drinking plain water hydrates you. That's like a total lie. It's not what it does. And how do you see this salt being a crucial factor in people like reclaiming their health? Like, why and how is desert salt healthier for people, and why would you so much recommend for people to use it and to eat it, and how much would you recommend to eat?
So we've actually, in a week or so, we've got a beautiful blog coming out on salt and pregnancy.
Oh, beautiful.
And it's quite fascinating that apparently women in pregnancy, their salt taste buds diminish by 30 to 40%.
Yes, I've heard that.
Which is fascinating. And for me, it feels like that nature's miracle. The body is a miracle. And so now at this time, you're needing to apparently increase your blood by 40%. You've got your amniotic fluid. So, that's a salty medium in order for your beautiful little person to grow in. And so because the taste buds are going, it means that if your food doesn't taste salty, generally you would put more salt onto it. So it's almost like body's communication of saying, I'm needing more salt. So we have a beautiful, we call it the alchemy of five very beautiful women who are part of the spirit and the soul of Oryx, the team that has come together. Nina does the researching, and my social media queens and myself, and we've got beautiful health researchers. And the conclusion of our blog on pregnancy is around the body. It speaks to you. And for us to really go back to that, when you're feeling thirsty, drink. When you're craving salt, eat salt. And just speaking to your point around hydration is that there's a lot of research coming out now that actually just drinking water, plain water, even whether it's spring water or certainly any tap water or bottled water, is just put a little pinch of, hopefully you're going to go out and get yourself some Oryx Desert salt. So hopefully it's a pinch of desert salt, or if you've got another unrefined, unprocessed salt, use that in the meantime. But you just put a pinch. There's an alchemical process. So salt is an electrolyte. God forbid you don't need to go to hospital, but maybe some of you have had the experience of needing to go to hospital for an operation or something. And the first thing they do is they put you on a saline drip to keep you hydrated. And it's interesting after a while that you get so used to having this little pinch of salt, and that is allowing your body to stay well and properly hydrated. And it's absolutely essential for every bit of your functioning and well-being to be hydrated properly and to have the electrolytes that go with it that allow the body to, maintain its water balance and its hydration balance.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like having enough electrolytes in our bodies and staying hydrated is one of the most crucial factors of health. And also, I have come to see that my clients, like I work with people with menstrual cycles, and people who are not properly hydrated, they have more pain during their periods as well. Because of course, tissues that need to work hard need to be hydrated and oxygenated to function properly. And how would you say that? Like how is desert salt healthier for people with menstrual cycles? You already mentioned pregnant people already. Mm-hmm. Why would you recommend desert salt for people with menstrual cycles and women?
Well, our hormones, we know once a month, they can play havoc. They start playing real havoc when you go into perimenopause and menopause. In fact, I have to share, I feel like I've coined a new word and I really love it. Hormotional.
Hormotional.
Doesn't that work? Just before our moon time, we mostly get hormotional. So, again, the body is such a miracle. There's such an intricate balance of these hormones. And as I mentioned in the beginning, third being the most important, like we are 70% saline solution. Our tears are salty. Our blood, if you cut your finger and you lick your finger, your blood is salty. It is who we are, and we need to keep ourselves balanced. And only if our sodium levels are balanced, and sodium and magnesium and potassium are like they're best friends. Just having pure sodium, which is your table salt, the body doesn't recognize it. It needs its magnesium and its potassium and its calcium and the various 75 minerals and trace elements, which are micro. But unless it has that balanced by nature, in a perfect balance that we don't even fully understand, but almost in the same balance as our blood plasma is, that allows the body to regulate the hormones and regulate many functions, our digestion and our brain activity, to keep ourselves in balance. So by not eating a quality salt, table salt, for example, your body is internally hydrated, and that would then cause many other ripple effects of the body just not functioning properly and the hormones not being able to regulate themselves. So absolutely essential. And there's another piece that we have on our blog around women who are breastfeeding. And we had a lovely story of a woman who is a high performance athlete. And she was really struggling to breastfeed. She had very little milk, and she was frustrated because she believed in, natural and obviously breastfeeding her baby. But obviously her body was, put through a lot of stress in the high impact and high performance training. And she actually went on to have a partner product. It's actually not Oryx, but it's called Revive. And it is an electrolyte. And it's 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 100 milligrams of magnesium. And it's powered by Oryx Desert salt. So the source of the sodium is Oryx Desert salt. And she started using Revive on a daily basis. And suddenly her breast milk started flowing because she was hydrating and because the body requires that much more liquid and water but in a balance with the salt for the milk production to happen. And so, I mentioned before with pregnancy is that your volume of blood grows. And so your body needs the salt in order to grow your blood volume for your baby. And then, of course, when we have our moon time, we're going to be losing, Iris, you would know this more than I would, but I wonder, in fact, I empty my moon cup. So, probably in a cycle, at least a full cup, or half to a full cup, depending how heavy our flow is. So that needs to be replenished. That blood needs to be replenished by us. And we need good quality salt to give the body. The body has such an incredible ability to heal, an ability to recreate this blood that we let go of every month. But it needs quality salt mixed in with the water, this alchemical that allows the body to then replenish the blood that we've lost and keep us in balance.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there is also research that looked at how our electrolyte status moves with the different phases of the menstrual cycle. And their natural level increases from follicular to ovulatory phase and then falls significantly during the luteal phase. So especially before we bleed, like you said before, when we get, how did you say it? Hormonal. We could also see that as a sign of our body needing these micronutrients because we're naturally lower in them in that phase. Just like, everything shifts and changes in our cycle. Our blood sugar is a little bit more like all over the place. Our micronutrients are lower. So in that phase, it's actually super, super crucial to support the body, and supporting the body with electrolytes is like amazing. And I love that you have this sister brand with electrolytes, and I really would love to learn more about them.
So I would love to actually ask, and thank you for this opportunity to share with your beautiful community. And I love when Suzanne, my new social media queen, joined. She said that, she's studying with you and that she was going to be following her cycle and not committing to any meetings on the first couple of days of her moon time. And I was like, that's incredible. I honor you for honoring yourself and honoring your cycle. And I'm quite a bit older than you guys. I am in perimenopause, not quite in menopause yet, but I haven't dropped into that very embodied and somatic experience of the different cycles. I'm aware of them, but I just forge through and I just keep pushing through. And sometimes, in fact, actually, I was in Amsterdam in July and I had a talk. I was doing a presentation to 300 people in the evening and I was feeling so internal. I wasn't feeling extrovert at all. And it was one of the hardest presentations I've done. I was uncomfortable. I couldn't find my voice. I was a bit antisocial. And then I started bleeding directly afterwards. And then I had to catch a flight the next day.
Oh, wow.
which was really tough. So I'd really love to, I'm asking your beautiful community, those who are listening, those of you who have honored yourself to be in tune with your cycle, I would be so interested to know and to hear back from you in your cycle. Are you noticing a time where you're craving more salt? And is that just pre your cycle? Because obviously your body's gearing up to let go. And so it's preparing itself. So there's obviously an incredible rebalancing of the hormones. And then of course your body needs to build that up again. So yeah, I'd really love feedback from anyone who starts noticing. And I guess I'm planting a seed for those who haven't thought about the importance of salt and haven't thought about their salt cravings during your menstrual cycle and in relation to where you are in your cycle. Please share your stories. It would be really, really amazing to share with other women. And what came out of our research around pregnancy is we can do incredible damage to our growing little human by not increasing our salt, the amount of salt that we are consuming. I mean, doctors, they study 5 years or 8 years and they do between 5 and 8 hours of nutrition in their years of study. So they have no clue. They have completely lost the concept of food as thy medicine. And so, it's really sad that salt has been so demonized over the years. And there's an amazing cardiac surgeon, Dr. James de Nicolantonio in the US, and his one book is called The Salt Fix. eating more salt can save your life. And he's going totally against what the doctors are saying, but he coined a phrase which really makes so much sense to me, is that the wrong white crystal got the bad rap. That actually the sugar industry pointed fingers and diverted the attention onto the salt industry because they look so similar in a way, to take the flak for hypertension and blood pressure and everything else, the havoc that sugar creates in our systems. And so I think pregnant women are told to not eat so much salt, and it's complete antithesis. And I'm not claiming to be a medical expert. Please do your own research. But in the understanding of my body and the understanding now of salt over so many years and the deeper research that we're going into, in fact, it's really beautiful. Our Jackie Niehaus, who is a scientific nutritionist, health researcher, is pregnant at the moment. So she helped write our blog. So she's very in tune. And it is also written, from some personal experience. So yeah, I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for inviting people in to basically come to their bodies and to observe what is happening. And sometimes it can be really as easy as hydrating yourself. I've seen it in my practice. I've seen people struggling with specifically mood changes before they bleed and then period pains, and only focusing on nutrient-dense meals and hydration made such a big difference for these people.
Incredible.
So
that's such beautiful news that's being shared, and that people are, I guess it's going back to basics, isn't it? Just really taking care of what we eat, and everything we put into our body is either nourishing us and feeding us, or there's a detrimental. It's not. It's doing the opposite. It's causing havoc.
Yeah. I'm having one more question for you because I was just personally curious about it because I love bathing. And I was wondering if the desert salt, can you also use it as a bath salt or in other supportive ways, or is the recommendation just to consume it?
Or if you can eat it, you can bathe in it. Absolutely. I do. So quite early on in my journey, which has been 13 years now, I started creating a bath salt, but I realized I was splitting myself in two. Am I going to focus on salt to eat or salt to bath, and couldn't have it under the same brand, and it was confusing. And so I just focused on salt to eat because that is something that we need salt in pretty much everything that we cook. I meet occasionally people, I do trade shows all over really, and I love sharing the story. And some people say, no, they don't cook with salt. And I'm like, I find that very curious. And at the same time, I've had a couple of people who've said to me that they didn't used to use salt. And when they started using Oryx Desert salt, their body started wanting more of it. And I really believe that the body has this innate wisdom, and our tongue is, part of the communication. It's like, I want more of that. I know what that is. I know what to do with it. I need it. Thank you. Give me more. Give me more. And in the early days, so I had I loved COVID. I had many COVID blessings, one of which was because we lost so many sales because of not having the restaurant industry. I looked at what was really going to change and get us out of the trouble of having lost more than half of our business. And Whole Foods in America was always the holy grail for me. I really wanted to be in Whole Foods, and I started following up with the buyer. And a year later, we launched on shelf. So we've been in Whole Foods for 3 years now. But prior to that, I used to receive a mail at least once every 2 weeks. I traveled to South Africa and I bought your salt and I've run out. Where can I get some more? And every 2 weeks, somebody would say, where can I get your salt? I need more. I was gifted it. Where can I buy it? And for me, that was like, you write to the other side of the planet for salt. The smallest ingredient in any meal is salt. And yet it makes the biggest difference. And that to me was real testament to people's bodies going, I want more of this. I recognize you. So it's quite interesting. I think the relationship that the body will start having when you start bringing in a salt that is so pure. So salt, you actually can't certify salt organic because it is a natural product, but it's as naturally organic, as untouched, unpolluted, uncontaminated, and energetically vibrant and alive So even actually Himalayan salt, because it's an ancient solidified sea, to a degree it's dead. And yet with Oryx Desert salt and the source, it is these streams flowing under the continent and in this lake. And it's this living brine. And I don't know if you know Dr. Masiru Immortal's work with the beautiful, the words and the intention and how we speak to water. So that's another thing. Don't remember to put your pinch of salt into your water and play with it. Maybe put 2 pinches of salt, depending, maybe that will be something interesting. Maybe just your moon time is drop 3 pinches of salt in your water. And so that's the feedback I'd love to hear from you. But also then give thanks to your water and, have a positive thought and gratitude to this beautiful, liquid that comes from springs and rainfall and so on. So the salt to me is also imbibed with this very alive energy and you can re-enliven water with those beautiful flow forms is where water can actually be reactivated. Whereas water from a tap that goes through square pipes kind of dies. Water's got a consciousness, it's got a memory. And so work with that and work with the salt and the water. Water and salt are the essence of life. We can't live without either one of them. And just begin your relationship with water and remember this relationship and grow this relationship with water and salt.
Thank you for sharing that. And when you were sharing, I had like a memory popped up of an article that I read a couple of years ago now, I think, where there were researchers claiming that all of human life started in, I just Googled it, in the world's largest salt flats known as the Makgadikgadi Pans, which is...
Makgadikgadi, really? In Botswana?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So, and it's also where they found salt. And then I thought about this book that I read about water, written by Michel Audin, who is a birth keeper and a surgeon. And in his book, he writes that the lymph fluid that flows through our bodies is actually salty. And it's like the last memory of humans coming from the sea and coming from the salt. And when you were just saying that, like these 2 things like popped up in my head, like this research that they did where supposedly modern humans arose, like where the first humans were literally born out of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then this remembering of our lymph fluid that is salt, which is the last memory of us coming from salt and sea.
There's a beautiful quote from Khalil Gibran. There must be something strangely sacred in salt. It is in our tears and in the ocean. And I think that speaks to what you were sharing.
Yeah, this is so magical. I'm so amazed by nature, by our bodies. Yeah.
Salt is sacred, and I've been using that terminology with Oryx. Like there really is something so sacred. It's actually, I think it's called the 5th element, because there is this incredible alchemical process that happens with even we have some bakers who use salt in their sourdoughs, and it doesn't have the same alchemical process if they're using an iodated salt. And so there is something really magical and primal around salt. And so to be really conscious of which brand you're choosing and what is the source and what is the quality. It makes such a difference to your health.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So I'm assuming that people who are listening are like waiting patiently for you to tell, like, where can we get the salt? Where can people find the salt? And is there any piece of wisdom that you want to share with our listeners before we close off?
Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, it's so incredible to know that you've got a global community who are all learning and supporting one another in this beautiful journey. We're coming back to being fully in tune with ourselves and our cycles. So thank you so much for all that you're doing. So the lucky ones in America, it is available in Whole Foods and on Amazon. The UK, I'm hoping to launch in January, but I think there is still product available on Amazon in the UK. Germany, there are some stores that have it. So Europe, I haven't managed to open up. In the Netherlands, there are some stores that have it. And then Switzerland, it's available. We've got distributors, Taiwan. And I can ask you if you've got a beautiful premium shop, or if you can just start asking for it. Hello, you've had Himalayan salt for 20 years. Why have you not got desert salt? And you're welcome to point them to my website. My details are on there. And if you have any questions, I'm very happy to hear from you. So doing my best, I feel very gifted and honored that I feel like the salt from the Kalahari has chosen me as its facilitator to get it out and make it available to as many people in many countries as I possibly can. It's been a very interesting journey, a journey of personal growth. Growing this business from packing grinders on my dining room table to supplying Whole Foods, plus 500 stores nationally, and we've exported to 23 countries. But it needs to become, my mission and my vision and my intention is to become the next global household brand. So if any of you have opportunities or have any people to network me with, that would be hugely appreciated. And then I can make it available for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And website-wise and social media, where can people find you?
Super. So Oryx, you spell Oryx, desert salt. Desert has got one S, dessert has got two S's. And then just a quick note around the beautiful Oryx. So the Oryx is a gazelle. It has an almost meter long, 80 centimeters to a meter long horns. In fact, they're actually, there's a myth or a tale that they were the spark to unicorns, because when you see them from a side view, when their two horns are together, there's this long horn that comes out of their forehead, and their forehead actually has a heart in the top of their head. It's phenomenal.
Aww.
And I did a beautiful 120-kilometer walk through the Oryx Desert, and I had close encounters, a 7-day walk, and I had close encounters with the Oryx. And so some years later, when I had the opportunity to create a product and a brand, this beautiful masked creature came to mind. And so that's why it became Oryx Desert Salt. And a couple of years later, I then learned an amazing fact that they can go their whole lives without drinking water, but they can't go weeks without licking salt.
Oh, wow.
The minerals and the trace elements are fascinating. And the salt is so essential for them staying hydrated. And the next beautiful miracle is that their hair is hygroscopic. It's microscopic straws. And so they actually absorb the desert moisture and dew at nighttime, and they hydrate hypodermically. But they need the salt to maintain that moisture in their bodies. So that's just incredible. So it's Oryx, Oryx Desert Salt. And that would be our website.com. And Instagram, our handle is Oryx Desert Salt. And we've really just got some incredible research, and we're growing our wisdom around salt and our understanding of just how important and essential it is, for our health.
Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your wisdom and the science and the importance of consuming high quality salt for good health and a thriving life. I think that's very important. So thank you again.
And balanced cycles. Yes.
Yeah.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation to share and to be part of your community.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, with your friends, with your family, post about it on social media, or leave a rating or a review on all the platforms. To catch all the latest news from me, you can follow at the Planting Seeds Podcast on Instagram, or at Cycle Seeds on Instagram, or you can go to my website www.cycleseeds.com. Thank you again so much, and I'll see you next time.